The plastic stock motor mount isn't the greatest when considering the heat emitted by the motor. In order to dissipate some of that heat and increase the life of the vehicle, we'll be using the hot racing aluminum motor mount. The hot racing motor mount is of course aluminum in construction and is machined to precision. We have the LCG version here with seriously higher quality edges, a bearing pre-installed, as well as a small screw for the motor plate to hinge onto. Nevertheless, let's go ahead with the install, where we can begin by removing the body, and I also like to remove the battery for a little extra workspace. We'll need to remove the spur gear and slipper clutch in order to release the motor mount itself, and to do that we begin by removing the 2 screws on either side of the motor mount, as well as the 2 screws below the body, in order to pull the rear assembly away from the main chassis, releasing the spur gear and slipper clutch. We now remove the single screw holding the spur gear cover into place, now providing clear access to the existing motor mount. However, before we can remove the motor mount, we need to remove the attached motor by releasing the single screw holding the motor plate to the mount, and pulling the motor out to one side. Finally, we have access to the 4 screws holding the motor mount in place, 2 up top, and the 2 below on either side of the mount. And with these removed, the motor mount can be pulled up and away from the main chassis. With both side by side, the difference in quality is outstanding. Anyways, before we go ahead and install the new motor mount, we need to remove the single screw holding a small plate in place, and install this onto the new mount. Remember, blue thread locker is recommended when screwing into metal. Now we're ready to install the new mount by placing it into position, and locking it into place by installing the 4 screws. After which we can proceed to slide the slipper clutch and spur gear back into place. I'll need to remove the Techno outdrive I installed in the previous video since it doesn't pass through the slightly larger bearing present in the new motor mount, so by releasing the single grub screw, the outdrive can be removed, and we can remove the old bearing, allowing the spur gear to slide into place, after which the outdrive can be realigned and tightened into place. All that's left is to attach the rear assembly, reinsert the 2 screws up top, and finally the 2 screws down below, which are now going into metal, so remember to add some thread lock. The motor can then be placed back into position, hinge end first, and after you have the pinion gear meshed nicely with the spur, tighten the motor screw. Last but not least, attach the spur gear cover using the single screw in the centre. And that's all there is to it, a new aluminum motor mount installed and ready to run.